And then they talk about now. They talking about it's gonna get from here to like 10 years in the world. It's gonna be more advanced. You know how we came from back in the '60s and '70s. I think they done hooked up with some people from outer space, aliens or whatever you want to call them. Cause it's like these phones now, right? He called the girl name and her picture came on the phone. I sleep with my phone in the other room. I was talking about a Hammond organ one day in here, and when I got home, Hammond B3 was all in my phone. So I know they listening. If they listen to that, they listen to the private conversation. Yeah, through smart TVs and everything. So. Yeah. They let them come up there now and play around with it. Yeah. They want to go up there and settle and build communities up there. When that happens, it's going to be on. Because clearly they're out there. You know, the government has finally admitted. This is what I thought though. You know? I thought they couldn't get through the firmament. Because I mean here they had a clip when Hillary Clinton said, "We're getting closer. We got a crack, right?" And I know I think they was going under the earth, having bunkers and cities and stuff under the earth. But in the heavens, I might be wrong, but I was thinking like I'm in this body, I can't travel. But when I go to sleep, my spirit can travel outside the firmament or whatever. Because I used to think it was dreams, but when I was little. I was just flying real fast, and I go up so far, and I ain't had to worry about hitting nothing. Then I come back, and I hit the ocean, right, and go, and I even remember when I was like 2 or 3, I used to levitate. I didn't know how I was doing it, right, but then some kind of way all that seemed like hocus pocus. I just forgot about all that stuff. But in the back of my mind, because I was coming down First Street one day, in my dream, I'm just saying dream time. And I went past Q Street, and I was like, I fly a lot in my dream. So I went up on Q Street in the street, and I seen this house. I looked in the house. People was in there talking like they had a dinner or something. And then I flew over the house and went to the back of the house. I ain't never been back there, and I looked at it, the curtains and the deck and all that. And I left. I woke up. And then about 2 weeks later, I worked in Washington Hospital Center for 38 years. I was coming down First Street. And something say, pull over and go in that alley and see what the alley look like, the dream. I was like, nah. Then something say, pull over and go just to see it. So I pulled over, I went in the alley. That house in that alley, I ain't never been in that alley, looked just like the curtains, everything in the dream. And that's when I knew astral traveling was real. It's a lot of things I had to find out for myself. I ain't reading it out of a book, and I ain't even know it was called astral traveling at that time.
There's something black people, everybody has melanin, but we have more melanin than anybody.
Yeah, anybody.
And in our brain, there's something called the locus coeruleus, which is a large mass of black. What that does is allows travel in space and in time. In 1922, they discovered King Tut's tomb. They didn't tell anybody what they found in it for 10 years. All right? In 1932, that's when they started revealing what was in it. In 1930, George Washington Carver created what's called Upside Nine. That's the same group that is in the ancient temples in Egypt
Right.
that were painted several thousand years ago. It looks like it was painted this morning. But George Washington Carver, and he named it, he ain't never been to Egypt. He named it Egyptian blue.
Wow.
And this blue is so rich, very few people, it's hard to even make it called upside nine.
Right.
But what happened obviously was Washington traveled to time and space way back.
Yeah.
Some 2,000 years ago, where it was created that they do all these things that he was able to do. In 1931, they called him up to Congress, and they were still calling him boy and nigga. Boy, how you create all these products? He gave him one cigar. They asked him again, said, nigga, this is science. We want to know, how did you create? He said, God. And then, of course, they tried to get him to come to Stanford, tried to get him to come to Harvard, all these big institutions. He said, no, I don't want to come there. I'm going to stay here to Tuskegee, because I want my people to know I'm no more brilliant than they are.
Right.
If they get up early in the morning, go in the woods, and listen, and talk to nature, because that's one of the ways, from an African perspective, my daughter was talking about science.
Right.
Nature teaches us.
Right.
We can learn about God through nature. Psalm 19 says, the heavens declare the glory of God, day upon day and night upon night, it reveals truth and knowledge. And so, but the Europeans, they don't want you to know none of this.
Right, yeah.
They tried to figure it out. You can't figure it out because they don't have what we have. But you see, like your experience, what happens just like your physical body. If you don't exercise, you see people with a car accident, their little legs look like this.
Right.
Their muscles have atrophied, died. And therefore, and same thing with your spiritual consciousness. If you don't exercise it,
Okay.
it dies.
Okay.
You know, and added to that, all the foolishness that the Europeans try to tell you that it
Right.
don't exist.
Right.
Understand?
And they steal what they can steal
Still what it can steal.
and put it in these movies and stuff. I'm calling you up because all this you telling her I want
This
you
nuggets right
dropping
here.
some
Yes,
signs
indeed.
right here.
This is hot right here.
We live, y'all. Let me make sure because I don't want this come on, Nico. And we gonna call you up, and you can stay where you was at, and we can go from there.
Got the great Willie Wilson in the house.
Let me
Sir.
Turn my volume down, my phone just gonna start ringing.
Yeah, y'all. We got the great Reverend Dr. Willie Wilson in the house as promised.
Yes.
We good?
Yeah, I sent you the links. They're on your phone.
Okay, cool. I'm pulling you up now.
Check.
And we was like in class, and we supposed to be on air, so we gonna bring him up now, and so y'all can get some of these Jews he dropping. And I was recording them, but I'm gonna go ahead and go live, and we was talking about actually astro traveling. We got the ability to travel in dream time and go anywhere. You can drop it off. You can go from there. You live.
Oh, I'm live
Yeah,
now?
you can pick up where you left off at.
All right. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here this morning. I was talking about, brother was sharing about some experiences that he had. And I was talking about George Washington Carver. And I was talking about the fact that in our brain as people of color, black people, we have more melanin in our bodies. And a lot of times we think of melanin only in terms of our skin. But we have melanin in every organ in our body. We have a great amount of melanin in our brain. It's called, in the area of the brain called the locus coeruleus. And in that area, some people call it the black seed or the black dot. In other words, we have a lot of black mass in our brain called melanin, which they describe as the black dot or the black seed. I was talking about George Washington Carver, that in 1922, the tomb of King Tut was discovered. But the Europeans who raided those tombs did not say anything about what they had found until 10 years later in 1932. But George Washington Carver in 1930 2 years before they revealed anything about what was in that tomb. One of the things that was in that tomb was this brilliant blue called Oxide 9. I've been to Egypt 3 times, and I was able to see this blue. I've seen King Tut's tomb. The blue is in that tomb as well. Well, what did George Washington Carver do? He created Oxide 9, which he named, having never been to Egypt, having never traveled there physically, but he traveled through time and space with the putting together Egyptian knowledge of Egyptian culture and the science of the human mind. He was able to travel through time and space, and therefore he named that blue. In the Atlanta Constitution newspaper that still exists today was an article in 1930, 2 years before anything was revealed about what was in King Tut's tomb. George Washington Carver created this same brilliant blue that was created in the tombs of ancient black Egypt several thousand years ago. And here's the kicker. He named it Egyptian blue, having never been to Egypt physically, but mentally, spiritually, he had traveled through time and space and was able to identify this blue that he called as Egyptian blue, which was not revealed until 2 years later. So that's the power that we have as people of African descent. And I was saying to the brother that when we don't use it, it atrophies, it dies. My grandmother could tell you when it was going to rain. How did she do that? George Washington Carver calls it relational understanding. You start with the nearest known, and then you allow your mind to study that nearest known, and it will take you to other things. Example, my grandmother lived on a farm in North Carolina. So what did she do? She would get up in the morning. She would watch how the cows and the horses were acting. Then she'd look up at the sky. An hour or two later, she'd look at the animals to see how they were acting. Look up at the sky to see how the sky looked. After doing that for a period of time, she knew that when the sky looked a certain way, in a few hours it was going to rain. So that when she would come out in the morning and look up at the sky and say, it's going to rain about 4 o'clock today, you best get your umbrella because it was going to rain. She knew that by relational understanding, which is George Washington Carver talked about. He said the most important word in the entire scriptures is in Genesis, where it says, behold. And behold means look, observe, study nature, study what's going on around you. And he would get up every morning and go into the woods, 4 a.m., talk to the plants, talk to nature, and he called it God's little laboratory. And then he would go back into his laboratory and do what he had been shown and told to do.
That's good. That's amazing.
Amazing, yes.
So basically, we just got to get back to nature.
Absolutely.
I go out in my backyard. I always take my shoes off and put my feet on the ground. I have my little sound bowl hitting that. I sun gaze, and plus I'm a vegan, so I'll be doing the things can do, to stay, connected and tap. Yeah. And my thing I really want to try to do, I've been trying to do is, they got this thing called lucid dreaming, meaning when you're in your dream, you're dreaming. Mm-hmm. I be dreaming and traveling, but I just think I'm there. I don't know I'm dreaming. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when I wake up, I be like, oh man, I wish I could have remembered I was dreaming, because you can do different things. It's just like you be dreaming, and I'm here talking to you right now, and they say they got little tricks you can do, like I'm sitting here talking to you, do like this. I can't put my finger through my hand, right? Mm-hmm. And I get in the habit of doing stuff that I can't do in this body. Mm-hmm. Then maybe in dream time, if you do that and your finger go through your hand, then you're dreaming. Like they got little things I seen on one of these podcasts that you can do, but it's I did it when I told you that little what happened to me about coming down First Street. I got a bunch of those experiences, but I don't know what I did to experience that. I just know once I experienced it, and because back in the day before I experienced that one, I used to be on the couch, and I used to go to sleep, and I'd wake up, and I can't move. I'd be paralyzed. I hated that feeling, right? And then my mother and a couple of old people said, "Well, that's the devil holding you down," right? And that's what I used to think.
Right.
And I used to go to a lot of like thrift stores, and I'd be in the book section, and I came across this book about astral traveling, and I said, "That's what sleeping paralysis." That's what they was calling it. And I was like, "That's what was happening to me. It wasn't no devil holding me down." But they didn't know about this other stuff.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So there's a lot out there I didn't know about, and still don't know about. I know a little something, but that's why I always like to talk to elders like yourself. And I used to, when Dick Gregory used to be in the hospital, Washington Hospital Center, I used to go up there and bring him little stuff and talk to him. And I used to come home, and they used to always be, you always have stuff at your church. And they had like book signings or CD sales. But I used to listen to Dr. Francis Wilson coming home on WOL. And my wife's like, why are you listening to that stuff? Why? I was interested in it, right? But I didn't know, like, this fast forward down the road, they was going to be ancestors.
Right.
If I'd have known all that stuff, I'd have been at their feet more often. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, Dr. Welsing was she told me once she went to the cleaners, the same cleaners that she go to all the time.
Right.
And the night before, she had a dream. And in the dream, I forget what the numbers were. She said it was about 3 or 4 numbers. And she told this guy that cleaners what she had dreamed. She said, "I dreamed last night," and she gave the numbers. And the guy said, "I'm going to play those numbers." And 2 days later, she went back at the cleaners. The guy had cleaned up, man. He made thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Because he played the number that she had
Yeah.
dreamed that night before.
And I worked in the laundry for some years. These older people always used to ask me what I dreamed about. And I used to tell them, and they was hitting numbers off of my dreams, and I didn't even know. I just used to tell them, and they could at least gave me something. But since we talking about numbers, I'm gonna tell you this. Okay, like you got 3, 6, 9, right? So if you look at 3, or if you look at 6 and 9, all of them break down to 3, right? So as I got older in my life, that number 13 is relevant to me. Like I was the manager up there for 16 years, and I had good candidates, and I was like, Lord, which one I'm higher. And by that number 13 being relevant to me, I did set up interviews, and I look back at the interviews, and I had 2 guys, and I looked at the time that he called me. It was 11:03, and what I seen was that 13, right? So I hired that guy, and that was the good guy. And like when you was telling me about that story, and you said 19, you say 31, what Carver was doing that year, I seen 13 because you look at 1931, that 9 is a 3. So the only 2 numbers in there is that 1 and that 3. When I called you the other day, I was laying in bed to ask you, was everything still good about the show? And you was like, yes. I turned over. It was 11:13 on the clock. So that's just like confirmation to me. God got a way of through dropping, it could be anything, but when I see that confirmation, you can't question that confirmation. And why was that? I don't know all the numbers, because they told us 13 was bad. Actually, the day is the 13th, because my mother's birthday. And I plan on going over there when we leave here. But they told us, now I'm finding out, they saying it's actually 13 months in the year, and the year is really supposed to start in April. So it's a lot, and I'm still learning. So, yeah, I know you had laughed about something. What was you thinking when I had said about the number? And if you can, that's the camera right there. And that's it right there. And if you can learn this stuff, it's going to help guide you through life. Because God send you signs. Don't question them signs. Because especially if they've been working for you. And that's the same thing, like you say, when Carver got that blue. And I don't know if he knew he was astro traveling at the time, but it was working for him.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, obviously he was. There's no way he could have done what he did.
Right.
If he hadn't. He definitely traveled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had any experience like that through the traveling? And
Not really. I haven't.
Okay.
No.
that's why I say he worked with us in different ways. Because I even sometimes, and I had to tell my wife, when we go to bed at night, you got to turn that TV off. Because whatever on that TV, I be in dream time experiencing it. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's psychological right there.
Yeah.
And these phones and how they tapped in, I always think they're like 150 years advanced than us. And we,
Well, that's one of the main ways that the government is using now to deal with what they call terrorism. So even if you got a smart TV, they can listen to you anytime they get ready.
and see,
You know,
I believe that.
you
That's
know.
why I don't worry about it. They can listen all they want. Like, I'll be on my show, and when the spirit hit, I just say what I say, right?
But this is how they catch a lot of these guys that's planning to blow up something. Because they listening to them and they know what they got. Not only can they listen to them, like for example, when you have a big demonstration downtown, you think it's bees flying around,
Yeah.
but it's really satellites, cameras that can hear everything anybody's saying in the crowd.
Yeah.
Can see everybody in the crowd. That's one of the ways that they
Yeah.
monitor the crowd. So they got
The
all
flies, too.
They got all this technology, but
Yeah.
they have nothing to what these people out in space have. Because
Right.
those people have those UFOs can go. Because I have a friend who works in top security. He sent me in color a video of all these countries. I mean, they were speaking all these different languages because they saw all these foreign objects that were flying that could go up, down, shoot to the left, shoot to the right, and they were all speaking in their own language.
Wow.
Of course, the Americans were speaking in English. You see that one? You see that? But it didn't last because he wasn't supposed to send it to me.
Right.
It didn't last, but by that evening it had disappeared. You know, because
Yeah.
they didn't want nobody to see it.
So I got a question. So those aliens, UFOs, we talk about this firmament that's beneath us and that's above us. So the aliens have learned how to get through that firmament.
Oh yeah.
How do you suppose that they are coming through that firmament?
I don't have any idea. I know this. They have out west in mountainous areas. Some of them they fly into those inside of those cabins in those mountains. You know, because they have this one guy from the military that was his job. They go looking for them, right? Sometimes they land, and one landed, and they went to. Because they've captured a couple of them, they lift them up, they put a plane and then take them to a lab and try to study how it works.
Right.
You know, I would not doubt that some of the technology that they have, they've gotten it from these aliens by using what they get when they capture one of these vehicles. But this guy was saying how he showed the caves that they go into. And then when they come out, it's just a blur. They so fast, you know.
Yeah.
They can't. But,
Yeah, they
but that's
can't
when you're
catch
gonna have Star Wars. That's why Trump
Yeah.
started. That's why. So a lot of the stuff you see on science fiction, it ain't science fiction. It's what they know that is projected to happen at some point. That's why Trump started the what do you call it? Some kind of force. I forget the word he used, but it's all about.
Yeah, I remember he did a while back. Actually, I believe
it's all
it's actually
about warfare.
it's a
but they
war
don't-
going on right now.
They don't
Yeah,
want
it's
no
going on
warfare.
right now.
They don't want no warfare.
We
with
just
them
had the
people.
experience. It's going on.
But
right
I have heard, I sit in my dining room and I had heard you would think it's the 4th of July, like fireworks and booming, but you look outside and you don't see nothing. So I believe actually there's a war going on now, and they trying their best to do everything to keep it from us.
Well, what is going to really go on when they go up there and try to settle?
Yeah.
As long as they going up there now looking and sending their little spaceship
Oh, yeah.
up,
Right.
they don't. But let them go up
Because
there.
I seen clips where they talking about they got up there on Mars that they got some homes up there, but I don't know. That's why I'm trying to get key to control this this astral traveling, because I would be going places and I'll come back with the right mindset to. But they, like I said, they advance. I just trust in God because whatever you do, if God wants you to do it, they can't stop it.
That's right.
But they got some stuff going on that they, like I say, they know who woke, they know your blood type. I believe it got a lot to do with the blood, because they always trying to, when you go for physicals, take all these corpses of blood from you, and I end up finding about adrenochrome and all this other stuff. So to me, it's just like amazing. You feel me? And to go around a group of people, you know, at your church, and to hear your daughter speaking on that. And then actually when I first went there years ago and I seen that painting on the wall, that made me feel like at home, right? I said, all these people, they on my ass, they on my altar at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that drew me near to it. But I never sat through the sermon. And when I sat through the sermon the other day, I said, she ain't talking about dimensions and keep your eyes, to the sky, what's going to be going on in the next 24 days. And like the night, it's supposed to be a lot of solar flares or something coming from the moon. Mm-hmm. Actually, they say the night is not going to be a moon up there.
Okay.
Now in my mind, I was like, how they going to just turn the moon off and turn the moon on? It's a whole lot to what's going on.
Right.
You just got to have that mindset. You got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear.
That's true.
And that's why I don't really worry about nothing, because people talking about, well, all this bad stuff gonna happen. I'm not gonna be here when it happens. I'm gonna be I'm raising my frequency with the earth. I'm gonna be in that area where the Misha and her of the earth.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna be in this, because I believe that's gonna happen, and I believe in like different dimensions, and whatever you at on your frequency. If you creating the hell, you living the hellish life, I think that's what you're going to be at.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The scripture
But
tells you that.
that's just my belief. I was in the church and the Bible study with that guy say, when people get to talking about beliefs, I get away from it. But, you just got to study, because everybody, like, on different stages.
Yeah,
And
we
I
all
always
different
try
levels,
to listen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Different phases, different levels.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to Willie talking about this George Washington Carver, how he was, back then he was being spoken to, how he was presenting what he had accomplished, but he was way before his time, but he done some great things that we are benefiting and reaping today.
Yeah, all that stuff, peanuts, and
Yeah.
I don't even know how many different things. I know it was a lot of them
Yeah,
that he came back and he invented.
yeah. And so it's way beyond the science. It's like you said, it's God.
I got a
God
question.
exposure.
What would you tell the young people out here today? You know what I'm saying?
I would tell them what the ancient Egyptians encouraged everyone to do, and that is know thyself. Come into knowledge of who you are. For example, there's a scripture in this Bible, Luke, the 17th chapter, the 20th and 21st verse, says the exact same thing that was said in ancient Black Egypt 2,000 years before the scripture, Jesus' birth or the scriptures were written, and that is the Greeks went into Egypt and were stole and studied under the Egyptians and put their name on a lot of stuff. Well, for example, I don't know if you notice on that table, on that mural, I have the words, man, know thyself. Mm-hmm. That's the short
Man,
of what the Greeks did to try to shorten what it actually said. What it actually said was, the kingdom of heaven is within you, and whosoever understands this and has knowledge of self will find it. In other words, looking for the reason that we're in the same shape that we're in today. One, we don't know God. And the reason we don't know God, we don't know where to find God. The reason we don't know where to find God is because we don't have knowledge of who we are. And that the fact that in Luke 17:20 and 21 it says, don't you know? Let me give you 5 riddles.
Mm-hmm.
Here's 5 riddles that Jesus taught. And I'm going to ask you to answer this. In the 13th chapter of Matthew, talking about the kingdom of heaven, he says, the kingdom of heaven, first of all, is like a mustard seed. Mustard seed is almost invisible. You can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, you plant that mustard seed, and it grows and becomes a giant. We don't have mustard trees here. The mustard tree is a pretty big tree.
Mm-hmm.
Grows into a huge mustard tree, so large that huge birds can rest in its boughs. He says, do you know what the kingdom is? They said, no. He said, all right, I got another riddle for you. He said, the kingdom is like a woman who has a little piece of dough, and she puts some yeast in it. Once again, invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
But in a couple of hours,
That's right.
that little bit of dough
Expand it.
is a great big piece of dough.
Right.
He says the kingdom of heaven is like that. It creates something great out of something that you think is small.
Right.
Riddle number 3. He said the kingdom is like a man walking across a field, stumps his toe, looks down, there's a latch.
Mm-hmm.
Kicks the dirt off the other end, there's another latch. He pulls it up out of the ground. When he looks inside of it, there's something in there so valuable that he doesn't need anything else. He give up everything else he has because he's found the most important thing in the world in that hidden treasure. Do you know what the kingdom of heaven is? No, Jesus, we don't know. All right, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who finds a clam. Hidden in that clam, he opens it up. Here is the most precious and most valuable pearl that he's ever seen. Again, like the man with the hidden treasure, he gives up everything else he has for that pearl, because once he has that pearl, there's nothing else he needs.
Right.
Now, one more riddle. He said, if y'all don't get this one, I can't help you. He said, the kingdom is like a man that goes fishing. And he throws out his net. He pulls the net up on the boat. In the net is some bad stuff. Silt, mud, leaves, beer cans, even a liquor bottle that somebody took the cork out of and put a message on and put it in there. That's in the bag. But also some good stuff. The best seafood in the world, shrimp and crabs and fish and you name it, any kind of seafood. And he discards the bad stuff and keeps only the good stuff. So he says, what is the kingdom? Answer the question.
Okay.
What is it? That's like a mustard seed. Almost invisible. If I put a mustard seed in the middle of my hand.
Let me say this: is it faith? Because on all of it, you could need faith to believe that that stuff can work. It ain't that.
Your mind.
Okay.
Your mind
It
is
determines.
invisible, but it's powerful.
Okay.
It can create. It's so valuable if you understand the power of the mind. You know, the scripture says the power of the mind is so great. As a man thinks in his mind, so will be the conditions, the circumstances, the results in his or her life. That's the power of the mind to create. We know about the greatness of ancient Black Egypt, who built the pyramids, who created all the sciences. What we don't realize, most of us, is how they were able to do that. They were able to do that because the ancient priests of ancient Black Egypt taught every individual to be able to say these two words: Anuk Asar, I am divine. That is, meaning I am a little God,
Right.
created in the image and the likeness of my Father God. Not be God, but a God. For the offspring always resemble the parent. If God is your Father, as Jesus taught us to pray, our Father, if God is your Father, the offspring always resemble the parent.
Right.
So that is to say that God put a small piece of himself in each one of us. Something that, for example, again, what my daughter was talking about this past Sunday,
Yeah.
African people have always understood that God is pantheistic and God is panentheistic. That is, God is everything and God is in everything. So that that means that the same energy that's in you is in a rock.
Okay.
It's vibrating at a much slower rate, and that's why it's solid.
Right.
But the same energy, so it took Western world just discovered that 100 years ago, 106 years ago to be exact. Einstein, when he discovered the formula E equal mc squared, which is the formula for atomic energy, he couldn't figure it out. And he kept trying to figure out the formula for atomic energy, couldn't do it. And he finally stopped, turned on some smooth music, and meditated. And the formula came to him, E equal mc squared. And he tried it, and boom, atomic energy. But here's the point. African people have always known this. If you watch the movie with Harriet Tubman, what did she do? Before she did anything, she would always go and talk. There was a certain tree, if you saw that movie,
That's it.
a certain tree that she would go to, and she would pray, and that tree would give her directions, what she needed to do,
Right.
whether she needed to go or not go, to take some more people out of slavery. But what Einstein discovered 106 years ago, they didn't prove it. They just proved it a few years ago. After Einstein discovered the formula, because he couldn't prove it. Nobody proved it until about, 15, 20 years ago. 106 years after Einstein came up with the formula. They've been able to create atomic energy, but they didn't know how was why, or any of that. But our ancestors have always known the fact that God is in everything. So that, in other words, all matter is energy.
Right.
That's what E equal mc squared is. All matter equal. In other words, matter and energy are the same thing.
Okay.
All right. So that energy that is in you is in everything that exists. Because it came out of the same source.
Right.
You see. But it is things like this, because the European does not and hasn't never wanted us to know who we are and the uniqueness of who we are as a people, our extremely high spirituality, which they don't have,
Right.
which they therefore try to keep you from having it by labeling it as witchcraft, as wicked, as evil, as all these things.
Yeah.
Just like your experience, the way people have been conditioned, if you go to the average person who calls themselves spiritual, they're not spiritual, they're religious.
Right.
They would tell you, that's demonology, what you talking about.
Yeah.
You leave that alone, don't Because that's what the European have taught them
Right.
to do. You know, anytime that we had those kinds of experiences in slavery, they tried to beat it out of us. They tried to or use the scriptures to make us think that it was evil or negative or bad.
Right. Wow. So, like I said, I already know for myself. 'Cause like I said, I grew up, and I have, like my sister. I got with my mother, I got 5 brothers and sisters, but they got the same mother and father. But after my mother broke up with her husband, she had me by a different man, right? So I got a brother and a sister on the other side. But my sister, my father came. He stayed with me the last 9 years of his life. Because he used to live in North Carolina. He got 6. I brought him up there with me. But I heard him in the room talking on the phone to my half-sister. And she was telling him to tell her brother to go to the doctor because she had a vision. She a seer. So, and he had, have a knot on his neck somewhere, and he needed to get it checking out. So I was in the room, and I had this knot on my neck back then, and it was small, and it just grew. And I didn't really want to go to the doctor, but I know I had to do something. But I heard her on the speakerphone telling my father to tell Tom. And so he said, "No, I talked to Tom." He said, "He ain't got no knot on his neck." And so I went in the room. I said, "I got a knot on my neck." And it was me. I was her brother, but she was thinking it was the other brother. So I went to the doctor, and they did it. It wasn't cancerous, and I had surgery, and they took it out. But I'm saying all this to say, we see things as a people, that's not natural. Yeah. And once we do that, we just need, like you say, know yourself. And I know the voice that speaks to me. God, just little simple things. I was sitting on the porch down in South Carolina one day, right? And I was enjoying the weather and everything. And so I just heard the voice say, "You see that tree right there?" There was a tree over there, and I was like, "Yeah, I see the tree." He said, "It's right there, ain't it?" I said, "Huh?" I'm trying to figure out where it's going. And I said, "Yeah, it's right there." Then he said, "You see that tree way across the street over there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "It's right there." I said, "Yeah." And then he said, "You see that sun up there?" Because I always thought they said the sun millions and millions of miles away. I said, "Yeah." He said, "That sun right there." And my mind said, "It's right there." He said, "Yeah, that sun ain't no millions like they said. They said that sun right there, just like them trees." And I said, "Okay, thank you, God," right? And then, I don't know, about 2 months later, they had this man flying an airplane, and people was on the window, and nowadays you don't know what's AI and what's not, but they was over top of the sun. It's like the sun was inside this dome, and it ain't way out in the galaxy like they had told us. And then I was sun gazing for years. They told us that we watch the sun, it'll blind us. I ain't blind yet. It actually give me energy. So I'm just saying, once you know certain things, and you just gotta, every day is like an experience, a journey. This journey we on, and I think it's really we gotta come back into remembrance. And then once we fully do that, I think that's the key right there. What you think about that, Reverend?
Dr. Willie said so powerful. Going to the power
What I
word
just say,
is.
we got to come back in
We all got that
remembrance.
power in us. Yeah.
And once we, it's like everything is a test. That's what it seemed like to me. Like, God give you a test, whether you're going to pass it or not. And if you don't pass it, you just be like going in a loop. And once you start passing these tests, you go up higher. It was a song they just sing, said, "Every round goes higher and higher." Cam and Jacob's Ladder, y'all ever hear that song?
Yeah. Man.
But so because the condition we've been in all these years, you just try to figure. I'm glad I woke up. I woke up in 2011, and before that, I was in the world doing everything, and now it's just like I see outside. I'm from the outside looking in, really, and they say be of the world, but not in the world, and all that. So the older I get, I just sit back and I just look at society, and say for me, it would be like ain't no hope for them, right? I used to try to talk to people and explain stuff to people, and they laugh at me behind my back or whatever, right? But then later on, like the COVID shot, I was telling them this way before that, and I was like, everybody gonna have to take this shot and move, and they like laughing. And so when the job started talking about that, they said, ain't that what Nance was talking about? I said, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And then it was getting closer and closer to the date, and all the people talking about they weren't gonna do it, they got in line and they did it. And I can ask you this question, but I just did what I had to do because God told me not to take it. So, me and my wife, right, we told the job we ain't taking it. We ain't putting that in our body. We don't know what it is. Well, so we just went out and did an early retirement. We basically just left. And with that being said, the church I was going to, right, they told me I couldn't come in there, right, unless I had proof that I had the shot. We called it the jab. So, and then I got mad because I was like, you supposed to go to the church if you can't go nowhere else. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I was done with it. I ain't been to church since COVID. I went to a couple of funerals, and then I went to your church, right? But I said, if I ever see my pastor, because I couldn't want to see him, but I was like, this is the conclusion I came to. I say, the government. Satan runs the government. This is what I believe. Because all the stuff they do. So if he runs the government and he can shut down the church, right? The church working for the devil, working for Satan. So in my mind, I was like, I don't need no middleman. I just go to God by myself, right? And so that's what I've been doing. But by you owning the church and doing all that, what do you think about that? What would you tell me as far as like when they were saying I couldn't come in there unless I got the shot? Because I don't know who got the shot, who didn't. I just know Spirit told me don't take it. And I didn't take it. And then after it's over with, they send me all this stuff every week almost, about the church doing this and the church doing that. You know what I'm saying? So for anybody that's out there that was in my shoe, because my mother said, well, you got to find another church to go to, this and that. And I was like, not really, because it's about spirituality.
Well,
it's not about
probably what
religious.
Probably what happened to you is what we were talking about earlier. It changed the whole paradigm for people in terms of church, period. For example, there are many people, not just you, but there are many people as a result of COVID that have never been back to church and never will go back to church because they can stay at home and go to churches all over the United States
on the computer
and lay in the bed and eat pancakes and eggs,
Get good words
on the bed every Sunday, right?
So that is what has happened. But in terms of what you were saying about the government running the church,
if they can shut it down,
they don't have to, because the teachings that, for example, there was a Christian preacher by the name of Reverend Charles C. Jones in 1832. He was the son of a slave owner in Savannah, Georgia. They sent him to Princeton University to become a minister so he could come back and minister to the rich white slave owners. He had another idea. His idea was, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be the prophet to the slaves. He wrote a book called The Catechism for Negro Slaves in the United States of America, 1832. This whole idea of Sunday school, for example. He told his fellow slave owners, build a Sunday school building and teach these slaves, among the things that were taught, it was catechism. Catechism, we call it Catechism for Negro Slaves in the United States of America. Who gave you a master? That was the first question. Answer, slave had to learn. They had to go to Sunday school 6 to 8 hours a day, every Sunday. The answer was God. Why did God give you a master? Because you need a master. What happens if you don't obey your master? Answer, you're going to hell. Now this is what was programmed into our people 6 to 8 hours a day every Sunday. They called it Sunday school. Now, when the black church came into existence, it didn't start with a new doctrine. It took the same doctrine that they had been brainwashed with in slavery.
Wow.
The only reason they left the white church is because they couldn't sit down on the main floor. They had to sit in the balcony. And the white preacher tell them what to do, same stuff that I just got to telling you just now. So that they didn't leave because of the doctrine. They didn't leave because of the lies that had been created about God and about Jesus. They simply left because of the racism and discrimination of not being able to sit downstairs on the main floor. So every denomination that you can name, except one, Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, all of them except one took the same doctrine from the white slave master and started their churches, so that for a large degree, most churches are still teaching the same thing that the slave master taught them all the way back from the 1800s. The only church that didn't do that was the Church of God in Christ. Bishop C.H. Mason. Bishop C.H. Mason, at 11 years of age, said, I want the religion of my ancestors. I don't want, so that much of what has, more than any denomination, that denomination is responsible for preserving the African perspective over against what was taught. And they went through a lot of criticism and abuse. That's not to say that the Church of God in Christ is right on everything. They, in fact, a lot of stuff they off just as off as the rest of them. But they did retain certain Africanisms of worship experience that are still with us today. Bishop Mason, for example, Bishop Mason was a root doctor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you look at, there's a big picture. You can go on the internet and look at it today. And when we get off of here, there's a big picture of him with a table with all these roots and herbs and what have you. And his people have tried to discount it. They said no, but at the same time, while they tried to discount it, they proved it. There's this one guy, he's trying to tell, no, he was not a root worker. He didn't do that. But I can tell you why I know. Because my grandfather and both of his brothers, they were with Bishop Mason when he was living. And they would go into the woods and search for different roots, and then they would sell them. That's the way they made money. But the point is, by his own admission, he was saying exactly what he was trying to deny.
Right.
But the point is,
I don't think nothing wrong with being a root doctor.
That's a very much a part of our culture.
Yeah.
You know, that's who we are. In other words, for example, when the Europeans took over Christianity, Christianity originally was an African religion. Europeans took
I found that out recently.
Europeans took it over. When they took it over, they had no power.
Right.
You know, to do what
We
our
did.
people were able to do.
Right.
So the old ladies who knew how to go in the woods and get these roots
Right.
and heal you,
Yeah.
they were the real healers.
Yeah.
So what did the church do? they outlawed them, and this is why naturopathic medicine is held in negative view even to this day, because the church, the only way they had to heal people was to take a knife and cut them, and they call it bloodletting, let them bleed, and then if they die, they say, well, they bled too much, or so that's the only way they had, so that these African people who could heal people by taking herbs and roots. This is one of the reasons why you had women being labeled as witches, because of the fact that they were able to heal people using these natural methods of healing people. So a good point, in fact, example, pretty much every medicine that they use today, what they did was they took those herbs and then they mix it with chemicals and then shape it up. A good example of this is what they call a placebo effect. Placebos, when they testing a medicine, they take a fake medicine and it ain't nothing but a sugar tablet, and they have two groups of people. They have one group as a control group. They give them the real medicine that they're trying to sell, and then they give the other people the sugar tablet. What they find out, a lot of times, the people that's taking the sugar tablet get healed. The people that's taking this fake junk that they put together, it ain't working. Point is, here it is, the mind. When you believe, I'll give you an example. This was probably 30.
And that's in the word.
This was probably 30 years ago at Washington Hospital Center. There were two patients. They put in the folder of one of those patients the folder that belonged to the other person. In other words, the person that had cancer, they put her information in the folder of the woman who didn't have cancer, and they put the woman who didn't have cancer information in the folder of the person who did have cancer. Guess who died?
The one who didn't
The
have
person who didn't have cancer. Because she believed the person that did have cancer didn't, because she believed what was in her folder. So that again shows you the power of belief. Your mind has the ability. In your body is something called synapses. What they are is message carriers. Everything that comes out of your mind travels to these message carriers, and they carry that message to different parts of your bodies. Now, if, for example, this is where people get tricked. I tell you, I'm not going to call his name. One of the biggest con artists in the United States of America. He tried to get me, Marion Barry, when Marion Barry, here's what this guy was doing. I was wondering why this pastor tried to get me to come. He said, Reverend, can you come? I want you to come and bring Marion Barry. Now, what had happened was, when Marion Barry got prostate cancer, did nobody know but three people, him, his wife, and me. All right? So he was trying to figure out what method he was going to use for his treatment. So he had this guy from California to come, who's a natural doctor. The doctor said, God said, well, I can heal you, but it's going to take a long time. So he said, a long time I do not have. I got to be healed now. So I didn't know why this guy was so insistent about me coming. They kept calling, can you come? And what he had this evangelist who goes all over the country there, and this guy's con game was, we have all these people, and he calls somebody up. So what kind of car who needs a car? People come up, I need one. What kind of car you want? Mercedes, or you go sit down. And somebody said, I need a Ford. He peeled off $6,000 cash. Go get yourself a nice used car. So that guaranteed every night people was packing in there thinking they gonna get called up, they gonna get a car. In the meantime, he was getting all this money. Now get the $100 line, the $50 line, so on and so forth.
Right.
So finally, he kept calling me. I said, I can come, but I can't guarantee you that Marion's gonna be able to come. I didn't tell him why, because he was that was the week he was getting ready to go into Johns Hopkins. He had made up his mind. But when I go in there, the host pastor tells me, yeah, you know, we've been going on here for 3 weeks now. We've taken up no less than $54,000 each night from all these people getting all this money, right? So when I walk in, I see why they wanted me to come so bad. This naturopathic doctor knew this preacher. So when I get there, he's up in the pulpit with him. So I'm sure he had told this guy, man, Barry, got prostate cancer.
Yeah.
He's getting ready to go in the hospital. Now, he would be good for another 45 days if Marion Barry was to come and he prophesied, you got prostate cancer. Then it come out in the paper 2 days later.
Yeah.
He good for another 40, 50 days,
Yeah.
racking up all this money.
Right.
And that's what he was. That's why he wanted me to come so
And bring
bad
Mary.
and bring Marion Barry so he could use them to prophesy and get another 30 or 40 days
So
of money.
when you walked in there, you realized that.
When I saw that guy, when I saw that naturopathic doctor sitting up there in that pulpit with him, I thought, oh, this is what this is all about. That's why he wanted me to come. You know, but
Yeah, people had their motives, man. You know, you never know, man.
well, you know, I got a 2 o'clock
Yeah, I know. I
I
just
gotta
looked at
get
the time,
to-
but we appreciate you coming out.
because it's
Definitely
1:20
great.
right now.
Yeah, we went over. I
bunch of nuggets
appreciate you
we
coming
received.
out.
All right.
We're gonna take some pictures. We can walk
Okay.
you out back out to
All
the
right.
car, man.
Man, it's been great, man. We definitely got some good nuggets from you today. I got a whole lesson.
And this was for the history books
Within an
right here,
hour.
y'all.
Yeah, this is great right here.
Yeah.
Hey.
So we gonna take a break. We be back. And we gonna take some pictures, and we gonna walk you down. So
Okay.
That was awesome, man. That was great. I learned I got me some nuggets in today.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely gonna have to get you back in. Yeah. Love is amazing. Ready to go by here.
Okay.
well, hold up, you know, this is right. Take a picture of him and the desk. I'll take you.
Y'all hear me just singing too, right? See? That's him. All right, Joe. Hope y'all got them nuggets. Hey, that was required for learning right there. See, there's no religion here.
All right.
Appreciate that.
All right.
It's all right.
I'm gonna get one by the wall.
Like I am on a fly. Love began to rise. Give the sister love and pride. Feel good and satisfied. I'm not a girl that can linger, but I feel like a butterfinger. I wanna do it again. Tell